This is the next video in the Historic Ordnance series, and this one is going to be on the Chinese Type 66 Directional Mine. Now, right off the start here, I'm going to let you guys know, out of all the mines that I've looked at, this one, believe it or not, was the hardest to get information on, even though it's just a copy of the Claymore. When I looked at information put out by the US Army Engineer School, all it has is a couple pictures. One of them of a mine that was recovered in a desert. The other picture looks like one that was taken by an intel agent at an international arms expo where the Chinese had them out on a table for sale. When I checked over with Russian sappers, because they would have encountered these in Afghanistan in the 1980s, what information do they have? They literally have the exact same stuff as the US Army. Just a couple pictures, bare minimum of information, and they said that it is a copy of the American M-18A1 Claymore Mine, just done more cheaply and more crudely. So then I went over to the Chinese. I did some translations using a translation program of different search terms and went through there and told Google to translate the pages. Pretty much dick for information. But they admitted, the Chinese People's Liberation Army, in a couple articles that was put out by them on this mine, that they literally copied exactly captured examples of American Claymore mines from Vietnam. Now, it's laid out essentially the same. The dimensions are the exact same, 8.5 inches wide, 5 inches in height, and 1.5 inches in depth. Weight is 3.5 pounds, of which the explosive filler is 1.5 pounds. Now, it looks like the initial ones that they copied were filled with TNT. The ones that they currently produce are filled with C4. On the front of the mine here is 600 ball bearings in front of the explosives. That's a little bit less than the US Claymore. The size of those ball bearings is a little bit larger. We have 2 scissor legs on the bottom, 2 fuse wells, and there are notes from the PLA that when they copied them, they made those fuse wells longer and also wider, so that way it could take a wider range of fuses and firing devices to set off the Type 66 in comparison to the American M-18A1. Now, the site is located right here, this little peep right here. It's not this down here. It's this little peep right here. Now, I did some looking in the U.S. Army's Claymore Manual, which is FM 23-23. There are some pictures in there, some drawings from the very first version of that manual from 1966. And the very initial run of M-18A1s that was sent to Vietnam had this style of sight on it. Just this little peep sight, which was off-center of the mine. And the Chinese copied that exactly. Current versions of the US Claymore mine have a completely different sighting system. They have blade and what's also called notch. Each of those are different. But when I looked through 23-23, I got the info for putting in a Claymore using this type of sight. Now, on the back of the mine here is more markings. Probably says stuff like Type 66, Directional Fragmentation Mine, so on and so forth. Now, the markings on the front translate to this side faces the enemy. They literally copied the United States, where on our Claymores it says front toward enemy. Now the kill radius on this is a 60-degree arc to the front of the mine from left to right. 50 meters out is the killing distance. Severe wound distance is out to 100 meters. Potential wound distance is out to 200 meters. Safe zone to the sides and rear is a minimum of 16 meters, and the person must be behind cover. Now this mine, according to EOD sources, is only being employed by China, Cambodia, and Angola. However, I do know that these mines were encountered in Afghanistan by the Soviets and later by US troops, and some were also recovered in Iraq. These have been used in other countries around the world, other conflicts, but for some reason they're not listed. I know they've been found in Asia, the Middle East, and across Africa. Now, I took the basic procedures of an American Claymore mine and I changed it according to what I could find on this. So the steps I'm going to give you is the best that I can come up with, because I could find nowhere any information posted on emplacement or removal of these mines. When I even checked EOD sources for their information on this mine, they have it locked behind the paywall. They want you to pay to find out information on this mine. Now I'm going to use a training Claymore for giving you the information on emplacement. According to the Chinese, they copied the mine exactly. So I'm going to be using our equipment, and it should be similar to what the Chinese are using. First off, you're going to go through, inspect the mine, make sure it is not damaged to the point that it is unusable. You will then go through and check the firing wire. Their firing wire, from what it looked like in some of the drawings, is a similar spool to this, with a connector on one end for going onto the firing device. But on the other end, there isn't a blasting cap. They apparently have a connector similar to this, so that they can attach in the leads from a generic electric blasting cap. You will also inspect your blast machine, and you'll get a good look at your test set, which is probably similar to this. Make sure it's not damaged. After you do the inspection, then you're going to do tests. First thing you're going to do, you're going to take your firing device and your test set, hook them together, click off the safety bail, and then clack it a few times. You should see a light. That tells you the clacker's working. Put the safety bail back on. At this point, you're going to test your firing wire. Now, I do not know if there is a shunting plug, which is supposed to go on the end of this firing wire, or if they also check the blasting cap. If there's some type of shunting plug, I'm guessing you'll put that over the ends here, which will complete the circuit. You will then connect your firing device to the test set. Click off your safety bail. and you should see a light. Now, if you have to connect the blasting cap to the firing wire to test it, you will take your blasting cap. You will put it underneath a filled sandbag. You will take the ends, put them into the end of the connector, and then you'll go through and test it to make sure there's no breaks in the wire. If the wire passes, disconnect. Make sure to put the transport caps back over each of the connectors to prevent crap from getting inside. Make sure to put the safety bail back in place. Now at this point, what you're going to do, you're going to go to your ambush position or wherever you're going to be placing this. You could be putting it in front of your trench line to hold off mass enemy waves of troops coming attacking in. Find a location where your firing point is going to be at. Once you're at that firing point, you're going to choose a location where you're going to emplace your mine. You will go up to that location where the mine is going to go. When you get up there, pull out your mine, and I do not have a picture of the bandolier that this comes with, or comes in. Open up your scissor legs. And this one is stiff because this is a really old trainer that I literally recovered from the trash that it was being thrown away and put it back together. Open up scissor legs, stick it down in the ground. You are then going to do an initial aim through that peep sight. Now your location of aim, we have our mine here. The location of aim is going to be 50 meters out. And you're going to pick a location about 6 to 8 feet up from the ground. According to the Chinese, they say choose sight to a location of the average height of an adult. So you're going to look through the sight, you're going to line it straight up, straight across, straight to a point 6 to 8 feet up, 50 meters out in front of the mine. So you have your initial aim. Then their plugs are the same as ours. You notch on one end, solid on the other. Unscrew a plug from one of the holes. Flip it over so the notch end. You will insert the blasting cap into the fuse well. Run the wires through the notch. Pull it in tight and screw it in. You will then take the leads coming off the blasting cap and you're going to tie them off to an anchor behind the mine. It could be a big rock because that's what's nearby. It could be a stake that you put in the ground, could be a tree, could be a fence post. something to tie it off so that if something hits the leads, the firing wire to the mine, it does not yank the mine out of place. After you got the wires tied off, you will go through, double check your aim through that little slit sight. You will then spool your wire starting to go back. Once you get to the end of the leads for the electric blasting cap here, you're going to connect them in to the connectors on the end of your firing wire. And my guess is put a little bit of tape around each of the leads to hold it in, just to be on the safe side. Continuing to spool back. It probably wouldn't hurt that the ends of the leads of the firing wire is close to your anchor, so that you're not putting too much stress on it. Or you could take the ends of the firing wire, wrap that around your stake, and then connect this into it, either or. But you want to make sure that this is not going to pull apart. You'll spool your firing wire going all the way back to your firing position. At that location, you're going to take some of your firing wire, wrap it around another anchor, another stake, another big rock, post, whatever's there. You're then going to reconnect your test set to your firing device. And then reconnect the firing wire to the test set. Once everyone is clear of the kill zone, everyone is clear from in front of the position, you will call out that you're doing a test. Flip off the safety bail, give it a couple clacks to make sure that you can see the test light, which tells you the circuit is okay. Put the firing device back on safe, flipping that bail back up. Disconnect the test set from the firing wire. Put the transport caps back into place on your test set. And then you will connect your firing wire to your firing device. Set it to the side and wait for the time when you're supposed to initiate. Basically the same as the Claymore mine, just a little bit of changes because they use a different way to hook up the blasting cap to the mine and the firing wire. Now, I can't say that that way is 100% correct. I'm going off of what I could find from drawings and from pictures. From the pictures that the Chinese have on their websites, the firing wire is essential, it looks like, is a standard electric blasting cap with just the two leads coming off of it. They are separate, they are not coaxial. I did come across a couple pictures which I'm guessing are from an arms expo. It looks like they may have changed it though, where the blasting cap, they may have now connected the two wires together and rubber coated them, very, very thin layer. But it's still the same type of setup. Blasting cap is the first thing that comes off the roll of the wire. Unlike with the US stuff, where the first thing that comes off the spool is the connector and the last thing is the blasting cap. They do the reverse. Now, to remove the Type 66 directional mine from operation because it has not been fired, you will first disconnect firing device, reconnect, put the shipping caps back on. Take the firing device with you downrange. Spool the firing wire up until you get to the connector. Disconnect the blasting cap from the connector. Finish spooling up the firing wire. Then you will start spooling up the leads going up to the blasting cap. When you get up to the mine, you will remove the plug. Pull the wires from the plug, flip the plug over, put that back inside the mine. You will then finish spooling up the wire leads to the blasting cap, stow that, pull the mine out of the ground, clean off the scissor legs a little bit, and then close them up. And they'll look parallel like this when it gets shoved inside the bandolier. Reportedly, they did have a bandolier for this mine, but I cannot find pictures of it. Now, if this mine is put in for booby trap, you go through, do your inspections and that stuff. You're going to inspect the mine. You're going to inspect the booby trap device. Make sure you got enough tripwire. Go up to the location where the mine is going to go in. You're going to put the mine in. You're going to sight it. You're going to attach the firing device. You're then going to double check your sight. Make sure that it's still generally covering the area that you want. You're going to go across the trail or whatever it is across the room where this is getting put to cover. Find an anchor point, tie off the tripwire, bring it back to the firing device, attach it to the firing device, double check the sight, or triple check at this point, and then you're going to arm the firing device, camouflage, and move out of the area. For taking it out of operation with a booby trap device, first you're going to inspect around the mine. If you have the safety pins, you're going to put them in the firing device to safe the firing device. You're going to follow the tripwire all the way to the anchor. Make sure there's nothing on the other end. If there isn't, disconnect it down there. Then you're going to follow the tripwire back to the firing device. Disconnect the tripwire from the firing device. You're then going to start spooling in or wrapping up the tripwire. Then you're going to disconnect the firing device from the mine. If you have the shipping plug, you're going to put that back in place and you'll remove the mine. Now, there is an improved version of this which has been getting found in Yemen. It's being referred to as a GLD 150A, and that's because of markings on the back side of that mine. It is a lot similar. The sights on it are completely different, and that one also has a carrying handle, but reportedly it's the same size. According to the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, the GLD 150A is an improved version of the Type 66. So this will probably eventually be phased out by the CHICOM Army and replaced with the newer version. But there you go. More information than you will find even in US military sources on the Chinese Type 66 directional mine. Now, for all my engineer brothers and the Patriot militia movements, always remember essayons.